Greetings, friends. Welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Shawn. Today, we are looking to start our week with some wisdom, some encouragement from the Psalms and from the Proverbs. We're looking at Psalm 55 this morning and Proverbs chapter 6. Now, Psalm 55 is kind of a psalm of David lamenting and asking God to give ear, to not hide himself from David's complaints. Something that I've just found interesting is, and so I'm just going to give you my commentary on a couple of verses to start, and then we'll read the full psalm in its context. But one of the complaints David has to do with, the people who are injuring me. It'd be one thing if they were some distant enemy, but it's actually the people who are supposed to be on my side, and that's what makes it painful. And I was reading that, and I've just been something I've just really, for whatever reason, have taken notice of recently, just for me personally. A majority of the opposition and harsh criticism and things that I deal with as a result of this podcast, they're not from from atheist groups or non-believers or other religions who attack me. It is people who claim to be followers of Christ. Those are the ones who've always got snide comments to say, who've always got critical comments to say, who are always arrogant, wise in their own eyes. That's the only form of negative feedback I ever get, is from that type. Every once in a while, I'll get something like that from someone who's clearly trolling the faith, but that's, 1 out of 500 negative comments would be somebody who's not claiming to be a Christ follower. And I've always just found that to be kind of astounding. David says here in verse 12, "For it was not an enemy that reproached me. Then I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me, that did magnify himself against me. Then I could have hid myself from it. But it was thou, a man my equal, my guide, and my acquaintance." David's saying, if it would have been a clear enemy, I could have borne it. I could have dealt with it. But it was an acquaintance. Matthew Henry says this: "No wickedness so distressful," let me start that over. "No wickedness so distresses the believer as that which he witnessed in those who profess to be of the church of God." I'm going to finish his statement here, but I also just want to make this. So I gave you like a personal example. But another observation I have is most people who are no longer going to church, no longer gathering together, it's almost always people who have been injured by other people in the church. When I dig deep and I find out, hey, why don't you attend church anymore? What's going on? There's a story about some godless, wicked thing that somebody within those walls did to them or was involved in, something that injured them. And I only bring that up not because I have any advice for you, but just to acknowledge it. Just to acknowledge it, kind of how David's acknowledging it. It's like if it would have been my enemy, I would have been able to borne it. Let me finish this quote from Matthew Henry, and then I'm just going to read the psalm to you. "No wickedness so distresses the believer as that which he witnesses in those who profess to be of the church of God. Let us not be surprised at the corruptions and disorders of the church on earth, but long to see the new Jerusalem. He," meaning David, "complains of one that had been very industrious industrious against him. God often destroys the enemies of the church by dividing them. And an interest divided against itself cannot long stand. The true Christian must expect trials from professed friends, from those with whom he has been united. This will be very painful, but by looking unto Jesus, we shall be enabled to bear it. Just some truth, my friends. Just some truth, and this is less shocking to those of us who have been Christians for, decades. It's with a new Christian who encounters this that finds it astonishing, because they were expecting to deal with some people, to be dealing with people who've been renewed, who've been changed, who are Christ-like, and they find out, well, there's many who claim it, but they deceive, and they betray, and they live just like the godless. Let's read the Psalm. Psalm 55. Open up your hearts and let's see what the Word of God has to say to you this morning. Verse 1. Give ear to my prayer, O God, and hide not thyself from my supplication. Attend unto me and hear me. I mourn in my complaint, and make a noise. Because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked. For they cast iniquity upon me, and in wrath they hate me. My heart is sore pained within me, and the terrors of death are fallen upon me. Fearfulness and trembling are come upon me, and horror hath overwhelmed me. And I said, Oh, that I had wings like a dove, for then would I fly away and be at rest. Lo, then would I wander far off and remain in the wilderness. I would hasten my escape from the windy storm and tempest. Destroy, O Lord, and divide their tongues, for I have seen violence and strife in the city. Day and night they go about it upon the walls thereof. Mischief also and sorrow are in the midst of it. Wickedness is in the midst thereof. Deceit and guile depart not from her streets. For it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me that did magnify himself against me, then I would have hid myself from it. But it was thou, a man my equal, my guide and my acquaintance. We took sweet counsel, and walked into the house of God in company. Let death seize upon them, and let them go down quick into hell, for wickedness is in their dwellings and among them. As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me. Evening and morning and at noon I will pray, and cry aloud, he shall hear my voice. He hath delivered my soul in peace from the battle that was against me, for there were many with me. God shall hear and afflict them, even he that abideth of old. Because they have no changes, therefore they fear not God. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. But thou, O God, shalt bring them down into the pit of destruction. Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days. But I will trust in thee. And that is Psalm 55. And you can see David's pointing out the fact that, hey, they're wolves in sheep's clothing, right? Let me find it. Where did I just read this? Oh, yeah. So he's describing this person. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. You have posers. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is in the faith. There will always be those people who are pretending. And sometimes I think these people, the wolves in sheep's clothing, I think sometimes they themselves actually think that they are Christian. They are people of God. But there's just not been any real transformation. It's not really gotten into them at the heart level. And so they're exercising that wicked human nature without restraint. But at the same time, they show up in the church and they smile and they shake hands and I think you get the point. Let's move on and have a look at Proverbs chapter 6. My son, if thou be surety for thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, thou art snared with the words of thy mouth, thou art taken with the words of thy mouth. Do this now, my son, and deliver thyself. When thou art come into the hand of thy friend, go humble thyself, and make sure thy friend. Give not sleep to thy eyes, nor slumber to thy eyelids. Deliver thyself as a roe from the hand of the hunter, and as a bird from the hand of the fowler. Go to the ant, thou sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provideth her meat in the summer, and gathereth her food in the harvest. Please note, I just love that. He's saying, hey, lazy person, go look at the ant. They don't need somebody to tell them, right? Like, they just do what needs to be done. They gather food in the summer to prepare for the winter. Verse 9, how long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep? Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man. He's saying sluggardness, laziness leads to poverty. Get up and do something. Work with your hands. Verse 12, a naughty person, a wicked man walketh with a froward mouth. That means a perverse mouth. Perverse nonsenses are coming out of their mouth. A naughty person or a wicked person. Continuing on, he winketh with his eyes. He speaketh with his feet. He teaches with his fingers. Frowardness, that is to say perverseness, is in his heart. He deviseth mischief continually. He soweth discord. Therefore shall his calamity come suddenly. Suddenly shall he be broken without remedy. Yeah, if you're that person, you're always plotting and planning, and you're sowing discord, and you're always trying to deceive and do all these things for your own personal gain, there's coming a day. There's coming a day, your calamity's going to come. It's going to be a shock. It's going to come upon you suddenly and out of nowhere. Verse 16, these 6 things doth the Lord hate. Yea, 7 are an abomination to him. Please note, I don't like it when people try to act like every sin or every act of wickedness is the same. There are some things that in God's eyes are an abomination. They are at a higher level. It's just what the Bible describes. Even Jesus himself, when he is turned over to Pilate, what does he say to Pilate? Those who turned me over have the greater sin. There are some things that just rank higher. And here's 7 of them. There these 6 things that the Lord hate, yea, 7 are an abomination unto him. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. Please note, I just want to make this point. You're going to notice that a couple of these are similar because they deal with the same type of sin, which is deception. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. Verse 18, a heart that devises wicked imaginations, feet that be swift to running into mischief, a false witness. There's another one that speaks of deceptions. A false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among the brethren. He that soweth discord among the brethren. Verse 20, my sons, keep thy father's commandment, and forsake not the law of thy mother. Bind them continually upon thy heart, and tie them about thy neck. When thou goest, it shall lead thee. When thou sleepest, it shall keep thee. And when thou awakest, it shall talk with thee. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is a light, and reproofs of instructions are the way of life. To keep thee from the evil woman, from the flattery of the tongue of a strange woman. Lust not after her beauty in thy heart, neither let her take thee with her eyelids. For by means of a whorish woman a man is brought into a piece of bread, and the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. It's just a fact. He's warning his sons, hey, go out, you chase after that strange woman, it's going to wreck your life. He warns about this over and over and over. Listen to how he describes it. Verse 27, can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes and not be burned? Can one go upon hot coals and his feet not be burned? So he that goeth to his neighbor's wife, whosoever touches her shall not be innocent. Play with fire, you're going to get burned. Men, do not despise a thief or steal to satisfy his soul when he is hungry. But if he be found, he shall restore sevenfold, he shall give all the substance of his house. But whosoever committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doeth it destroys his own soul. A wound and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away. For jealousy is the rage of a man, therefore he will not spare the day of vengeance. He will not regard any ransom, neither will he rest content, though thou givest many gifts. That is our wisdom and encouragement for this morning. Lots of just reality checks. Lots of warnings here. Reality is you're going to deal with people who claim to be of the faith, and they're going to disappoint. They just are. Reality check. God hates deception and lies. They're an abomination to him. In fact, we just finished our series in the book of Revelation, where on multiple occasions it talks about the liar going into the lake of fire. He describes all these abominations, and he says, and every liar will have their part. And then Solomon reminds his sons again and again, stay away from the strange woman, stay away from adultery. You go into your neighbor's wife, you're playing with fire. These are all great wisdoms and truths. I pray you've been blessed this morning. Thank you for listening, my friends. Please consider praying for the podcast. Please consider supporting the podcast. Peace and grace be with all of you. And until next time, God bless.